Hi, everybody on Instagram. We are going to be live on Facebook in about 2 seconds. Okay, perfect. We are live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. Okay, perfect. All right, so very exciting. My intern is going to be joining me today. He has been working at a grocery store during the summer. And he's going to be sharing some of his observations that he's made in the grocery store, especially with some of the decisions that the teens have made with nutrition, but also the athletic population too. And when we were discussing this was actually really valuable information that I was gathering. And I thought this would be very valuable for everybody else to gather as well, for some tips, some recommendations that from his personal experience, from my personal experience, and how you can apply that to your athletic performance for getting better and then working around any sort of food sensitivities. So with that, all right, on Instagram, we're almost there. Okay. All right. Are you able to get onto the Instagram, Andreas? All right. Well, before Andreas comes on, I'll just introduce myself. Hello, my name is Drew Mulvey. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist, board certified nutrition specialist, and certified integrative sports nutritionist, working close with athletes and non-athletes with autoimmune and disordered eating. I really have a strong focus on youth and young adult athletes. Thus, we're talking about teen and teen performance today. I really help the individual to really repair their relationship with food, to really empower them to make their own fueling choices and really reach their best athletic potential and really life potential too. Because when one thing in your life starts going right, then everything else starts coming together. So with that in mind, if you feel that that's been something that you've really been struggling with, or you've been struggling with a chronic disease and you really don't know what to do, well, from the nutritionist who has suffered with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and other autoimmune conditions, even from a relapse in January and coming out of that to now be training for a half Ironman, I would absolutely love to sit down with you and kind of share with you a little bit about what I have done and kind of get you through the gap and kind of guide you. Okay. So Andreas, do you want to try to get on again? Let me see if I can invite you. Invite. There we go. Perfect. We got it. All right. So I introduced myself. I introduced you a little bit on Facebook. So everybody, this is Andreas, and he's going to introduce himself now. He has been my intern this summer. He has been phenomenal, and I am so excited about him getting his master's in nutrition. And he's going to be a phenomenal nutritionist. Very excited about it. But with that, Andreas, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody and give a little background?
Yeah, hello. I'm Andreas. I'm the intern for the summer, and I've been working at the Big Y supermarket in New Milford here in Connecticut, and just been, you know, observing stuff that people have been buying pretty much, and seeing how different people just maneuver through the grocery store. But like Miss Mulvey said, I'm going into my senior year at Penn State. I'm gonna get my undergraduate in biology, and then from there, hopefully, to get a master's degree in nutrition from there. So
You went the route that I did. I actually started out as a biology major as well, and then I transitioned to a nutrition degree, which actually goes hand in hand. So that's actually how we had connected. His mother had said that he was a biology major and now transferring to this. So with that in mind, so we're talking about kind of the observations that you've been making, especially like with the teenagers and even the athletic population in the grocery store. So tell us a little bit about that, like what you've been seeing, where they trend towards, what are some of the foods that they're having?
Yeah, so I'll just start off and just get like an idea of the store. So the main entrance to the Big Y, it enters into the produce area, so where all the like the fruit, vegetables, and all that stuff is. And then if you go to the left, that's where all the aisles are with all the stuff. So in pretty much the center of the store, so aisles like 4, 5, 6, stuff like that, that's where pretty much where all the seemingly unhealthy stuff is, where like the sugary juices, the the high calorie just drinks, and then the cookies, crackers, candy, all that stuff in aisle like 6 and 7. So when a lot of people are congregating the area because of the just because the registers are also right there, people are just going to be in that area, so they're going to tend to get some stuff in that area too.
Right. Right. And so have you read that before, that when the grocery store, like kind of like a guide for shopping at the grocery store is to stay around the perimeter of the grocery store?
Yes, I have heard that because in the perimeter, so at the end aisle is the dairy section, so it has eggs, cheese, milk, yogurt, all that stuff. And then at the back wall is where all the like raw meat is, so like the chicken, turkey, beef or ground beef, and then pork too. And then there's also a meat department too that can help, that can cut different slices of meat for you too.
Definitely. Yeah. So then from your observations, so not only the teenagers, but I was also wondering about like the athletic looking populations as well, like where they're trending towards and what are some of the things that you've been noticing that they've been buying?
So yeah, in terms of like the more, I guess, well, athletic seeming or more fit individuals that I would notice in the grocery store, they tend to stay in the produce section a little bit more to get fruits and vegetables and put that in their cart, and then also tend to head towards the unprocessed meat section. So the raw meats, the steaks, the ground beefs, the chicken, the turkey, all that stuff that all has the nutrients that you want, and is unprocessed, so it doesn't have any of the unwanted or harsh chemicals that might be in those foods.
Right. And then where have you been seeing the teenagers trending towards?
They tend to get like a lot of the sugary drinks, or the ones that might not have like high in calories, but they still have the sweeteners that still would spike your blood glucose and trigger an insulin response. So even still, something is happening. So they tend to go to those aisles with the sugary drinks, and pretty much like always just drinking calories is what I always like refer to it as.
Right. And have you been seeing this also in families that go to the grocery store too?
Yeah, especially families with younger kids too. They also go to the section, but they also like the frozen section. So the stuff with, say, like ice cream or frozen pizzas or frozen pretty much anything, frozen breakfast foods, anything like that, that are also pretty high in sugar, because well, kids and pretty much everyone loves sugar, but um, it's yeah. But unfortunately, the part is that they tend to overdo it. Either the kids buy, like the parents buy it, and the kids eat too much, or the parents themselves buy too much of it, and then the kids keep wanting more and more of it.
Very interesting observation. So what are some of the things, obviously it's really important that teenagers be healthy, not only just for their athletic performance. So if they're teen athletes, but also for school, for their brain health, for their sleep health, like sleep hygiene. So what are some of the ramifications that it could lead to later on if they're making these choices? And what was also some of your experiences with this when you were a teenager?
Yeah, so personally, in say just like high school, late middle school, when I was still a teenager, I would tend to eat most of this stuff. I would have the chips that aren't exactly the healthiest. I would have the processed desserts. I would have any of that stuff. And while it still tasted good and I felt full for a little while, I tended to still be hungry throughout the day because pretty much what these foods are just empty calories. There's not really much nutrients in them. So I would still feel hungry and I would end up eating just whatever was available.
Mhm.
And with that, I wouldn't really still eat the right food. So when it came to going to any sports practice, no matter what time of the season was, whatever sport I was playing that season, I probably wasn't performing as well as I could. I wasn't
Right, yeah.
running as hard. I wasn't, like tracking down a ball in the outfield like when I would play baseball. So it would affect me in that way. So I can tend to see that what would happen instead of having more nutrient dense or having a bigger variety of stuff, having the fruits, vegetables, and some sort of protein would help with that more.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, granted, I'm a nutritionist now, but they say that your greatest strength was once your greatest weakness. Um, when I was in high school, I faced the same exact thing. I would be going to practices and I would be just completely shot all the time. I was a vegetarian in high school, but I guess I'd classify it as like a Twinkie vegetarian. So I really wasn't eating the healthiest things. And sometimes I would skip lunch and I would just have cheese and crackers and then go to field hockey practice and wonder why I wasn't running well or why I wasn't performing well. And then unfortunately, because of all of these things that I was having and all these foods that I was having, which I didn't realize my body didn't want. At 20 years old, I actually developed an autoimmune condition. I had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. So there is a direct correlation to the foods that you are actually putting into your body because when it's so super processed, then your body's actually trying to recruit those nutrients from other places in your body. So it's depleting you further. And that could be B vitamins, which is important for your energy pathways, which is important for your heart health, which is important for clearing out any sort of compounds that are generated from intense exercise or compounds that need to be cleared out so that you're recovering properly. And had I known then what I know now, obviously I wouldn't have suffered from what I did. But I think with that, obviously I've gained a lot of my athletic performance back. I've gained a lot of my energy back. But Andreas also had a transition as well. And Andreas, I'd really like you to share about your experience after you started kind of finding a balance between everything.
Yeah, so it pretty much started after my freshman year of or not high school, of college, because even going into that, I was still from it lessened, but from time to time having still the process like the junk food pretty much. But around the time I've started to enjoy topics around nutrition and then just human health is when I kind of took a step back and looked at and said, well, I should really change how I am eating food and pretty much just alter what I'm eating so that I can feel better and look better in the long run. So it was around my sophomore year, I started to cut out pretty much and just stop buying junk food and replace it with other foods that would be more helpful. So I would eat more fruit. I would have more vegetables. I would have larger portions of protein to just pretty much counteract that throughout the day eating from what those empty calories were to more nutrient dense calories. And then over time, I started to just notice a difference in just overall health. And I thought that, and then from pretty much now on, I just don't really buy junk food, and I think people should also really consider that too, and just replace it with or find alternatives that will do they'll satisfy you, but also in the long run help with your overall health.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's also important, just finding that balance of things that you like and then things that would be really beneficial for you. But obviously, working with you, you've really increased the fruits and the vegetables. You're very good with your protein. I mean, we've been working together on, just manipulating different things in your nutrition plan based on your personal goals. And we even just came up with something new, which is really cool. So with that in mind, what would be some of the swaps that would be recommended to the kids for like some of the healthier decisions that they can make based off what they do like?
Yeah, I mean, it gets kind of hard to do it with like sweets because of just how much like people and especially kids they like sweets. Um, but there's still some alternatives you can get. Um, if you really think that you can do it, and if parents or kids or whatever think that they can just completely cut it out and just replace it with fruit, they can just completely do that because pretty much fruit are just natural like good sugars that you can have, and they're that will and I find that if I have fruit I don't really need to have any sweets. That's what is the sweet for the day.
Mm.
But even if that's still not like if you don't think you can get there just yet, there's still like stuff with natural fruit in it and no like colors and stuff, you can get those.
Mm.
um or if you aren't on the fence about like carbonated beverages that have the sweeteners in them that are just still low calorie, if that's still in a repertoire of if you think you can have them or not, if you don't still think that they're unhealthy, then those are still an option because they are shown to be 0 calories.
Mm.
But and then also there's protein bars, there's granola bars, there's stuff like that that also have a bunch of nutrients in them that you can have that still, while some of them might have some added sugar, there's still a lot of them that are that still have a bunch of very good stuff. They either have protein, they have the vitamins, they have all that stuff that help you out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, it's like we've been saying, it's still about balance because if you go overboard with even some of these alternatives, you still not might see results. So you have to have a balance of having this with the pretty much just the superfoods or just the stuff that are have a lot of benefits and almost no downsides.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's really important, like finding that balance and finding some of those particular products. So, I mean, for me personally, I have found that Simple Mills has a lot of great products. They have some crackers, they have some cookies, they have different mixes that you can have. And I really like it because there's coconut flour, there's almond flour, there's some fiber in there that's actually going to help your actual gut, and there's cacao powder. So the cacao powder is actually going to act as an antioxidant. And as you were saying, there's some protein bars, there's Kind bars, there's other granola bars. So interesting that I was thinking, well, where could these kids go? If they stay in the gluten-free and the organic aisles, they're going to find these foods. Now, does that mean that it should be 100% that you're getting these foods? No. Finding other alternatives. And then also if somebody so for the juices, there are some organic juices that are a little bit lower in sugar. I personally get the Honest Kids juices. They're like little juice packs. They
Yeah.
don't have like 30 grams of sugar in them. These have like more like 10 grams of sugar. And then you're also getting the antioxidants from those particular fruits. But for those that have like food sensitivities, one of the things I've noticed in my clients, like it's really hard for them to go out with their friends because they have this processed food mindset, I guess you would say. So what do you think some of the things that you'd recommend to them? So say if somebody was gluten-free, dairy-free, they're trying to be anti-inflammatory, like what would some things be that would be catering to both not necessarily a sweet tooth, but what they want more of, and also
Yeah.
catering to like their health, like kind of when you were transitioning, like what that balance was, what would you recommend? Like, what are some things that you'd recommend to them?
Yeah, so it's definitely hard to get not only balance a healthier diet, but also dealing with these things like gluten-free or dairy-free. Because personally, I actually can't have too much dairy myself. I have some sort of intolerance to it, but it's still, honestly, it's still a work in progress for me to figure out what exactly which foods cause it. But it's still, I have an idea of what some of them are. But honestly, in the organic section that I found at even just Big Y, there's still a lot of stuff that are advertised as gluten free or advertised as dairy free because of just some of those properties, knowing that they can be inflammatory to some people, so they just don't have it in to begin with. So
Right.
if you can just look around and find anything you want, and usually some stuff are on sale. So like if you want to get like a protein powder, there's obviously some with whey, but then they have the plant-based one with pea protein and everything else, which has the same amount of proteins per serving. Or if you want to get chips, they have chips made without like seed oils, and they have it with avocado oil, and so that can be less inflammatory. So there's always options, and it doesn't always have to be the very expensive one, because there's either stuff on sale, or you can like swap it with something on that's still healthy, that's on the cheaper side.
Right. Yeah. I know you and I came up with some things like fruit and nut butter, like peanut butter and banana, some organic or natural peanut butter and banana is just a go-to. And then having like a peanut butter and banana sandwich, on some like whole wheat bread, or some other things that I'm thinking of that are really good, especially for those that have any sort of autoimmune issues. Even brown rice cakes and some peanut butter or some almond butter or sunflower butter. And I'm thinking, this just came to my mind. This is actually really, salsa is one of the best foods for you. It's got the tomatoes in it, so there's lycopene, so a ton of antioxidants. I mean, there's a ton of research on that. It's also got the other components. It's got the onions in it. It's got the lime juice. It's got the cilantro, which cilantro actually helps to bind heavy metals and clear that out of your system. And it also is really rich in antioxidants. And that's a really easy way that kids can get something that's so nutritious. And then there are several different chips. So Siete has chips that you can have, and you can dip those in the salsa. There's guacamole that you can get, and you can dip the chips in there. You can dip the Simple Mills crackers in there. So there's so many different options that doesn't necessarily have to be processed, that can be conducive to what your goals are, and even staying within those those um those parameters. I mean, even me myself, like, I have some, I don't even want to use the R word, but I have some limitations right now, and I've been able to find really great alternatives that have also been very nutrient dense. So some of the protein bars, I shared that yesterday. So please be sure to check out my Instagram and Facebook group, or my group, my feed for that. And Andreas also shared some too. But what would some of your favorite things be that you would want to incorporate in that would kind of hit two birds with one stone?
So, I mean, in terms of foods that I still like getting and have and would see and still feel good, I still like getting orange juice, 100% orange juice. I still think that it's still very beneficial. It has I even get the one with the calcium and vitamin D in it. So it has the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the calcium in it, all that stuff, and it's still 100% juice. There's no added sugar. So I still get that. And then I like to get protein bars, but not every protein bar is good. Some stuff still have a whole bunch of junk in it that you don't want. So I tend to get simple ones. I found at Big Y that the Atlas protein bars are pretty good. They're pretty simple ingredients, and they seem to get the job done. I don't really feel hungry afterwards when I go back to work. And then also the Think protein bars are also pretty good too. And then there's also a brand called Nick's protein bar. They're a Swedish style protein bar. Those are also pretty good that I tend to get. But I mean, those are just some of the stuff that I find. Just even if you're out and about in the day and you just need something to eat, because you're just going to be out walking or you're just going to be busy for a while. Those are some nice things to get,
Yeah.
just to satisfy you for a while, because they're nutrient dense, and then that's kind of what is what it comes down to, is keeping yourself in the calorie range that you want, but making sure that those calories you're eating are very nutrient dense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I shared some of my favorite protein bars. So I shared it yesterday, but it's Save the Rainforest bars and Go Macro bars. There's pretty much like all whole foods in those, Aloha bars as well. So they get some protein, you get some fiber in there, and then you're getting some of the antioxidants as well. So that's really important, especially like I get that asked that a lot. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy with my schedule. Like, what are some of the things that I can incorporate into my nutrition plan that are going to be super easy? Um, Also, I mean, incorporating just chicken and guacamole. That's pretty easy. Some of the kids, they really like chicken, or sometimes it can be hard for them to get protein in. That would be interesting. So what are some ways that you'd recommend the kids to get protein in like a whole food way that you think that if you were a teenager, when you were a teenager, that would seem like delectable to you?
So what I remember the most was that young kid, teenager, was I always liked the chicken nuggets, chicken tenders, and then hot dogs, and then very plain hamburger. So it seemed to be the very simplistic protein sources that are very desirable, it seems, to people, or to like teenagers and young kids. Um, while yes, those do have their protein sources in them, there's still a bunch of other stuff, and they're a little bit higher than fats and then calories, just because they're mostly breaded and fried. So, in terms of still getting your chicken and stuff like that, you can replace it with grilled chicken, and that will still be just as nice. Or if you still want hot dogs, there are all natural hot dogs without any additives in it, no nitrates, no extra brine, so pretty much just uncured. And then, I mean, hamburgers, you can buy 100% beef frozen hamburgers too, or if you feel like you have a grill and you cook them, you can make your own too. So those are definitely some swaps that can be made that aren't as processed, and just just pretty much making sure that even though you don't get like the same like a satisfaction of having your chicken nuggets and fries and all that stuff, that you're still getting something similar to that, but in the long run it's going to be better for you.
Right. Yeah. And then for those that don't have a dairy sensitivity or like, autoimmune, Greek yogurt is a really great one. And there's actually Kite Hill Greek yogurt that is made from almonds if you don't have issues with nuts. Other great things that you can do, like with some of the meats, there are like the grass-fed chomps, like that's one of them. There's chomps, and then there's some like turkey jerky that you can get from Trader Joe's. So that would be a great protein source. But just making like a sandwich for a snack, because kids like
Yeah.
sandwiches.
I mean, I still have sandwiches all the time, and you can do anything with sandwiches. I get uncured ham. I get roast beef, which has actually been one of my favorite things to get, is roast beef. It's um, initially I didn't think it would be that good, but I looked up some of the nutritional information. It was actually had very pretty good stuff in it, for roast beef. So that's another thing. Um, or you can also do turkey. They have chicken too. You can put on there. They can do either just chopped chicken or sliced chicken too. So you can make a sandwich pretty much out of everything, and you can still have the good nutrients in there too.
Mhm. Yeah, I was also thinking about trail mix too, because you get some of the protein from the nuts and the seeds, and then you have some of like you get the stuff for the sweet tooth too.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so then what you've been seeing, what would be some of the recommendations that you would make to, like, from what we've been discussing? Obviously, we've been kind of discussing finding that balance, but what would you recommend to a parent?
So yeah, I would say that if because I've seen both sides of it. I've seen parents that don't really care what they buy and the kids just get what they want. And then I've also seen parents pretty much say, "Hey, we're getting this, and what kind of this do you want?" So like,
Right.
so because I've just even a couple of days ago, a parent and our family walked in, and then they went right to the fruit section, see what fruits they wanted. And then I've also seen families go in and go right to the ice cream aisle and see what ice cream they want to get.
Mhm.
So I would say is to still kind of have that balance though, is to prioritize getting those healthy foods, is prioritize getting a large amount of fruits and vegetables, and then getting a good like protein source of some kind for dinner or lunch or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then if depending on how, I guess I'll just say, the health of either the family or the kids, you can then go and get a dessert or so, and get a healthier option than the very processed one. Just to because kids just want some dessert. You can't just cut them off completely because
Agreed.
it's just you can't really stop them from wanting that.
Agreed.
But they still have pretty good ice cream options at Big Y that have more natural stuff in it, aren't as processed.
Right. Definitely. And even those that are suffering with like any sort of like food sensitivities or autoimmune, like you can always find things, as I shared about there are some dairy-free ice creams that you can
Right.
have, but then
Yeah.
there's also they can be really good. But there's actually some things that you can make. I make these brownies, they're sweet potato brownies, and then you sweeten them with dates, and there's cacao in them. So you're getting some of the fiber in there as well as the antioxidants. And sometimes I put some oat flour or coconut flour in there and you just mix it all together. So finding ways that you can use creatively, like with a whole foods and make these simple little dishes, that'll go a long way. So eventually you're kind of, I don't want to say weaning them off, but you're opening them up to a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different ways that you can use whole foods to make foods that they really, really love. Like for instance, Andreas just made coconut flour pancakes that were from all Whole Foods, pretty much. They looked really good. They looked really, really good. And there's different flours that you can use. There's coconut flour, there's almond flour, there is tapioca flour. So especially those with autoimmune, tapioca and coconut flour, you mix those together, and then coconut sugar or dates or maple syrup, you can use that. And then the cacao, you could still use that too. So there's always ways around finding that balance, but showing them and teaching them about the whole foods and how to incorporate them in. Some easy things that we talked about, guacamole, salsa is a really easy thing, chips, crackers, and then just nut butters and fruit, like nuts and fruits. Like those are those are super easy.
Yeah, and I mean, and most of them you can are pretty readily accessible. You don't have to get
Exactly.
like the high end version of it that are probably just overpriced. You can still get, I mean, fruit for example, at Big Y, it's always on sale. No matter like, it might not be the specific fruit you want, but there is a fruit always on sale at Big Y, or a vegetable always on sale, and you can get pretty much a category of food that's healthy. You can find a version of it that is accessible, and if you have a limited budget too.
Right. And that's a way to get adventurous with the kids because I mean, when you're a kid, okay, I'm 37 and I still am adventurous with everything and trying out new foods, trying out new fruits, trying out new vegetables, trying out new things. And especially with your kids, even with picky eaters, really trying to figure out what are the things that they like and then find meals that are conducive to that. So there's always a way around it.
Yeah, and growing up too, I was a picky eater. Didn't I had very few vegetables that I liked. I didn't enjoy eating some fruits, or I just wouldn't eat them in general. And I just didn't enjoy some stuff. I used to not eat fish too, and now I love salmon. So it's kind of just, it's part growing up and stuff as your taste buds evolve, as they say,
Right.
and you enjoy more foods, but starting early and just venturing out and having more foods and finding the stuff that is still healthy, but say just pretty much on sale, because that's how I always would. I still shop, is anything on sale or anything in a decent price range, I would get it. So
There are ways to work around it for sure. Cool. All right. Well, are there any like finishing thoughts that you have from observations that you've made at the grocery store?
I mean, I think I pretty much got to everything that I've observed, and pretty much any of my suggestions. I think I got through most.
Perfect. Yeah, no, when he told me about this, I thought this was going to be very beneficial and very helpful for everybody. And we covered some great topics, you know, what he was observing from the kids, what he was observing from the athletic population. We gave you some tips, if you do have those picky eaters, but also if you have anybody with any sort of autoimmune or any sort of food sensitivities, there are always going to be better options. So for instance, I have the Jackson sweet potato chips and there's avocado oil in there. So you're not always being exposed to those different sorts of, I guess you would say, more inflammatory oils, but you're still satisfying that craving. The chips and the salsa, the chips and the guacamole. It's harder for me to get the kids to like hummus. I didn't like that until college. So
Yeah, I never got into hummus too much. My other people in my family love hummus, but I never really got into it. But back on this, just brought it. It reminded me of like the like inflammatory and just sensitivities. Is, well, I still have my dairy sensitivity to some things. I can still have Greek yogurt and stuff, and I still buy it all the time. So it's also kind of a thing of pretty much testing yourself. Is, does this still affect me if I were to have this? So you kind of have to guinea pig yourself a little bit to see if this still affects you. But if it doesn't, you can go on buying this one. If it does, then you know not to buy in the future.
right. Yep. Trial and error. That's a big one. Big one. All right. Well, Andreas, thank you so much. He has been a great intern. I am so excited for him to be going on this path. I think he's going to be a fantastic nutritionist. Thank you so much for sharing your observations from the grocery store. And if this has resonated with anybody, please feel free to DM me or DM Andreas. Obviously, you know me, I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist, board certified nutrition specialist, and certified integrative sports nutritionist that I work close with athletes and non-athletes with disordered eating and autoimmune conditions. And I really am trying to target like the youth and the young adults too, but I do see a wide variety of people. And if you feel that that's been kind of you, that you're not really performing as well as you want to, you're kind of having a lot of trouble navigating the grocery store, navigating around some of the sensitivities that you do have, I would absolutely love to speak with you. And if you are curious about any other observations, then please send Andreas a DM. Cool. All right. Well, Andreas, again, thank you so much for having me. Thanks so much for coming on. I do that with everybody. At least I'm consistent. I do that with everybody. But thank you so much for coming on today and sharing what you did with everybody.
Yeah, no problem. It was definitely nice to share some of this stuff that I've been observing. So
Super helpful. We got some behind the scenes looks. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. This will be live on Facebook. So we did record this. If you want the copy, then it's going to be up in YouTube as well. So with that, everybody, I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday and stay tuned for more this week. All right. Bye, everybody.
bye.